Hello chess lovers! If you remember, a few days ago I published a game where Russian chess grandmaster Daniil Dubov launched a devastating king hunt in a game against Danish international master Jonas Bull Bjerre. That game was played in round 1 at 2019 European Team Championship, and here is another one which was played in round 7, where this time German chess grandmaster Rasmus Svane's king falls victim to Dubov's aggression. In this game we are also going to witness a very fascinating king hunt. But before starting our game, make sure that you are subscribed in order not to miss my future uploads. In this game, Dubov had white pieces and he opened up with c4. Svane responded with e6, knight c3, d5, d4, knight f6, and knight f3. With a transposition of moves, we now see good old Queen's Gambit declined 3 knights variation, bishop e7, bishop f4. Another popular alternative is bishop g5, or white can either capture on d5, play queen c2. Actually, white has a wide range of options, but in our game we have bishop f4, black castled kingside, e3 b6, queen c2, bishop a6, and white castled queenside. Before this, knight e5 and c takes d5 had been seen, but in our game we have castling queenside, and this looks to be a novelty by Dubov. A very bold decision. The c-pawn is moved. The king may be unsafe on the queen side, and at the same time, with this move, Dubov is sacrificing a pawn. Black accepted the pawn sacrifice, and we have d takes c4, knight g5, and knight c6. I have to tell you that it's not so easy to kick away the knight from g5 square. If you play a move like h6, then white can respond with h4. In our game we have knight c6, knight b4 can be a nasty threat, that's why we have a3, g6, and here we go, h4 is on the board. Bishop d6, well, Stockfish doesn't like this move and instead suggests knight d5. But I have to tell you that after a knight sacrifice on h7 and then h5, still it's not so clear. White has a very dangerous attack and black has to be very careful. But in our game we have bishop d6. Here we have g3, queen e7, and h5. White's attack looks very scary, right? e5 and h takes g6. Dubov is going for a piece sacrifice. Of course, he could also go for knight takes h7. This is also playable, but in our game we have h takes g6. h takes g6. But let's take a look, what if, for example, e takes f4. Then after g7, white is winning on the spot. You can't even play king takes g7, because once by going for g7, white is opening up the queen's diagonal. This rook is coming and the game is over, guys. After this deflective move, it's hard to save this position. If you accept the knight sacrifice, then rook h8 is coming and it's over. That's why in our game after h takes g6, black recaptured with the h-pawn. Bishop g2, finally, white is developing his last piece, is counter-attacking the knight on c6 and is connecting his rooks. He takes f4 and bishop takes c6. Not the most precise move, g takes f4 is stronger. If bishop b7, then knight d5. This is of course a better continuation, and once white can manage to lure away black knight from f6, then will penetrate the 7th rank. But in our game after e takes f4, we have bishop takes c6, which is actually allowing black to fight back. You can't recapture because of this queen takes e3, that's why Dubov played king b1, and in typical positions, making moves with your king is not a pleasant move. You are losing a precious time. f4, bishop c8. While if queen takes e3, then white has this knight d5 move. If knight takes d5, then after bishop takes d5, black is facing serious problems. The threat is queen takes g6, and it's not quite clear how are you going to neutralize that threat. If king g7 this time, bishop takes f7 can be catastrophic for black. Let's go back. That's why in our game after f4 we have bishop c8, rook e1, king g7, and knight d5. Finally, white is managing to lure away black knight from that f6 square from where it was covering this essential h7 square. Rook h7 check is on the board, king g8 and rook takes f7. Dubov is going for a rook sacrifice with which he is emphasizing the vulnerability of this g6 square, which will now fall. Queen takes g6, king f8, queen h6 check, rook g7, and bishop takes d5. Right now white is a rook down, right guys? But white has a very dangerous attack and it's not so easy to save this position. Queen h5 check, king d7, queen h3 check, king e8, we have another check, king d7, and bishop e6 check. So far so good with tiny inaccuracies black was holding, but in here black made a terrible mistake and played king c6, which steps into a checkmate in 13 moves. Instead it was high time to give up the queen. In this case, black can prolong his resistance. These white pawns look very scary, but still black can fight back. The position remains unclear. But in our game after bishop e6 check we have king c6, and as I've already mentioned, this allows white to checkmate black king in 13 moves, which Daniil Dubov brought into life with Ng's precision. From this move on he's starting to make the most precise moves. Bishop takes c4 check, we have a beautiful bishop sacrifice. The idea is that if king takes c4, then queen c6 check is coming, and black king is quickly getting checkmated. What a king hunt. Yes, and then queen g2 check followed by rook c1 checkmate. Let's go back. But in our game after bishop c4 check we have king a5. Now comes queen d5 check, bishop c5, and b4 check, king a4, queen g2. Now the queen wants to harass black king from the second rank. Bishop takes b4, queen c6 check, king takes a3, and bishop b3 with a direct mating threat. Bishop d7, black is covering the square, but now comes queen c1 check. Finally white is forcing black to accept the bishop sacrifice, and then comes queen c2 check followed by queen a2 checkmate. This was actually a very complex game, right guys? In case you have questions, don't hesitate to ask them. And in the end, let's also solve a chess puzzle. Please take a look at this position and try to find the winning line for white. It's white to move, and I will wait for your answer in the comment section. Thanks for watching. Here are more suggestions for you. Feel free to check them out as well. I will see you in my next video. Take care.